What's up everyone, how's it going? Coming at you from the studio on the Gold Coast today. It's pretty chilly today, probably about 15 degrees, maybe up to 17 degrees. And today I want to talk to you guys about failure. And basically I've had one of my hard drives fail recently in my RAID. And yeah, it just got me thinking about failure being part of the journey of business, part of the journey of creating, part of the journey of having a video production company. And I wanted to just dialogue with you while I kind of reset up my hard drive with new drives that I've just picked up from online. I've got two 2TB Seagate drives, and I originally just bought one because I was going to basically just swap out the one that went down, but to have a backup system as well and to just upgrade a few things, I thought I'll grab a second one as well. So I got two at two different times. That's why there's two different boxes. But I'll be unboxing these and I'll be setting up the RAID on the computer. And I'm just going to quickly jump over to the iPad just to show you a little bit about the setup that I'm going to run. So let's get into it. So basically what I run is I run a RAID box here, which is a cheap one from Orico, and it works really well. I've found it to work really well. That has got 2 times 2TB drives in it, and it's RAID 0 or a striped RAID. Then what I have is from there I've got 1 times 3TB, which is my backup, which is a daily backup. And then from there I've got 1 times 4TB, which is my weekly backup. So basically what I do is I run the 2TB in RAID 0 for all my projects, my project files. That's got every single file that I'm running concurrently. Any project that's live and active runs on the 2TB drive. Then my backup is basically a copy of that. That gets backed up periodically during the day. So sometimes, I might leave that to back up overnight if I've got a big project that I'm throwing on to the RAID. Sometimes I've got projects 300+ terabytes because I'm shooting in 4K on the 5D Mark IV. So depending on what that's like, sometimes the backups can take some time overnight. This one here is just a Seagate backup. I don't mind the Seagates. I've had a couple go down in the last, say, 10 years, but nothing major. So that's just a Seagate backup drive. That's USB 3.0. This RAID that I have is a USB 3.0 as well, and in the RAID array it might run about 250 megabits a second on the disk speed test, so that's not too bad for me, and it manages to edit my 4K footage without any problems whatsoever. So that's kind of my setup, guys. Hopefully that it's pretty messy and everything, but hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of how I run my backup and how I handle all the 4K footage that I'm ingesting all the time from bigger projects that I'm running. Cool. All right, let's jump across to unbox these drives, and I'll just show you exactly what these are. I guess I was thinking about failure, being part of the journey of creativity. And one of the things I was thinking is, as creatives, we create, but we also make mistakes, and mistakes are just part of that. Part of the overall journey, I think, of being a creative is owning those mistakes and knowing that you can always do better. You can always push yourself more. You can always produce better work. And some of the mistakes that I've made have been pretty full on. And I think many of the mistakes that have been made in my short career as a filmmaker and a creative have just been a mismatch of expectations between the client and myself. And sometimes the client will have in their head a picture of what they think the brief was, or what they think they've engaged you to do. But then when you produce it and then the end result of that, it ends up being a little bit different, and sometimes you're not on the same page. And that happened a lot early in my career. Certainly it hasn't happened much since in the last couple of years, but there's still occasions when the expectation is just so great for what they're asking me to produce, and I've got some great stuff that I've produced before, but sometimes on a lesser budget, I'll be producing something and it'll be a very strict brief. And they've got this idea that what I'm going to produce is some blockbuster movie, and then I give them, you know, themselves on camera, or whether it's a corporate video or something smaller and, you know, that took less time to edit. And they're like basically saying, wow, you know, I thought this was going to be a blockbuster, but this is just, you know, a movie of me on camera, or a movie about my business, or a short video. It's not really what they expected. And that sometimes happens. And, you know, I've used to consider that as failure, but recently I'm not so much worried about that anymore. It's just a misalignment of expectation. And then from there, once they know, okay, this is now the level that they're paying for, this is the service that I'm offering them, it's still a great service, the video quality is still excellent, everything is still good, but it's just not a blockbuster movie. Then from there on, we can make headway, and I can usually, you know, 90% or 99% of the clients I have are usually, by the end of the process, after a few reviews, they're really happy with the end result. So, but you know, in terms of failure and how we overcome failure, it's like, I guess it's part of the journey. And I think there's 3 key things that I want to discuss. And I think there's 3 key things that I would like to discuss about failure. Things that I've used in my journey in the last 3 years of owning my own business and running my own production company, and how I've moved forward after setbacks and failures. So basically, number 1, the first thing to do is fail forward. So we have to understand that failure is not the end point. Failure is an opportunity to right wrongs. It's an opportunity to move forward. And I always say, if you fail forward, if you can understand that failure is just part of the process, and as long as after that you can take a step forward. So what does that look like? Well, with a client, it might be they haven't liked a video, or there's been a misalignment of expectation. And instead of being against the client or negative towards the client, it's basically about continuing the conversation about what the brief was, continuing the conversation about what you agreed to produce for them, and continuing to just serve the client and help to move forward in the project. And I think failing forward is a way to not get worried about the situation and get down about yourself, but just to move forward with everything, and yeah, just continually provide service to the client, even though they feel like they might not have got exactly what it was that you sold them, or exactly what it was that they thought they were going to get. So here's the drive. Very, very excited to get these running. These basically the 2 terabyte Barracuda. These are the 7200 RPM drives, and 2 of these put together will run around 200 to between 250, I think, megabits a second, or megabytes a second. Basically, it'll be plenty enough for what I need. So the second thing about failure is to make sure that failures aren't something that get you really bogged down and weighed down for a long period of time. Similar to failing forward, you basically want to make sure that you move on from failures quickly. And one thing that happened right in the beginning of my business is that we had a big client, and basically that client, there was this misalignment I'm talking about of expectation. That client basically felt like that they didn't get what they wanted, and basically it caused us, myself and my business partner at the time, to get so bogged down for so many months on that project. And so now when there's a misalignment, I just treat it like any other work task. I basically just continue to provide value. I write down the things that have been the problems with the clients, and I just work with the client to overcome those things. So basically, there's no issue with having failure take like a month or 3 or 4 months. You know, you want to move on with your business. It might be that you might not work with that client again because they're just not they're not happy with your work for whatever reason it might be, and that's okay. You know, it's really important to move forward and just not let it get to you, so that you can just carry on with your business, keep creating, keep doing the right thing, and oh, thank you, drink voucher. Look at that, $100. Cool. Yeah, keep moving on with what you've set out in your mind to do, and not allow failure to cripple you and to take, you know, a long time and take you out of the game for more than, you know, a few hours. That's the main thing. So cool. Let's quickly open this one as well. And I think thirdly, yeah, I think that those two first ones are similar in a way, but it's about just making sure that you continually push for that next win. After a failure, just continually push towards getting that next win under your belt. And so that failure doesn't become, an attitude that you keep. Failure doesn't become something that's always kind of lurking around the corner, but failure is just something that is part of the creative journey. And you just see it that way. You see it that, you're always going to have wins, and sometimes you're going to have, small setbacks and things like that. So cool, there it is, number 2. Yeah, so basically, number 3 is failure is inevitable. Number 3, failure is inevitable. So basically what I mean by that is, you're gonna have setbacks in your walk in life, and failure is just part of that. Just like these 2 hard drives, or my other hard drive went down, hard drives fail. That's what happens. I've had 2 of these in my career, and I've been in engineering before. I was in production and I used to use these as backups, and I've had 1 go down then, and since I've had a production company, I've had 1 go down as well. So, making sure the fail safes are in place with your hard drives is similar to in life. Making sure when you fail, you've got a support group around you. It's gonna happen, it's gonna come. Having people to talk to during those times when you feel like you're failing, when you feel like things aren't working out for you, having people around you is really important as well, so that you can get a support network. Just like of backing up these 2 drives with another drive, an external, and then backing up again for a backup that I can store. Basically, what you want to do is make sure that that's happening. Make sure that you've got a support network, that you've got backup. And I have a family that loves me, and on this business journey, there's the beginning of it, coming out of an engineering salary into much less salary, and having a business partner, and then that business partner, he moved on to something else, which wasn't a failure, but it was something that I could have allowed me to set me back for months and months and months. But I basically just decided, no, I need to just move on and just get on with the job and continually creating great content. And so that's effectively having my wife and having now my son and having that support network and friends and creatives around me enabled me to just continually move on with what I felt I was doing and what I felt I wanted to do with my creative journey, my business. And so having that network of people around you, being able to understand that failure is just part of the journey, is really, really important and a big part of moving forward as a creative and as a business owner, as an entrepreneur in any season. Cool, well that's all from me, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I've talked too long and I haven't had time to set this up, but basically now I'm gonna go and set this up in a RAID 0. I'm just gonna do it through Apple, through the disk utility in Apple, and then I'm gonna get this running, and hopefully today I can get some swift editing going. Maybe I'll do a video on the speed test on this for the Orico, which is just a really cheap, 2-bay RAID array. And it's got some software that goes with it as well, but it's not an expensive unit, and it's worked great for me over the last couple of years. But I've talked enough today. Thanks so much for watching, you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.